Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, Aaron Reed is our guest. He's been an engineer at several public radio stations, and now he's on his own. Well, he's got a partner, and they're doing consulting services and contract engineering. And Aaron, if you've ever met Aaron, he's very opinionated, and that's a good thing because he's also very experienced. He's going to teach us about several engineering aspects, including some site security, some remote connectivity, and other things, all coming up next on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionic Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Air, featuring Playout One radio automation software, comprehensive streaming solutions, website content management, and social media tools for maximum listener engagement on the web at AIIR.com. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host, sitting here in Nashville, Tennessee, in what is now the Angry Audio studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. So glad to have Mike Dosh's Angry Audio right here, right behind me. I wonder who that's a picture of. I don't know. Doesn't quite look like Mike, so I don't know. I have to ask sometime who that is. Hey, so here in Nashville, and it's the calm before the storm. We've got this big ice storm and snowstorm on the way, and I know you people up north are going like, that's nothing. But we got a big ice storm brewing, ice and snow, and it's a beautiful day today. It's absolutely gorgeous. But by tomorrow night, it's going to be pretty nasty, and they're calling for maybe down power lines and towers coming down and all kinds of nastiness outside. So we'll see if we're here next Thursday. How about that? All right, enough about me. Let's meet our guest. Our guest is a guy that I've known for a long time, and we've talked a few times, but I really haven't gotten to know him well. And so in the next hour, you and me are going to meet and talk to Aaron Reed. Well, Aaron, welcome in. It's good to see you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Kirk. It's great to be here.
And where are you coming to us from? Yeah.
From today? Providence, Rhode Island. Okay. East Providence, if you want to get specific about it. But yes, we are facing the same storm you are, and it's going to be just as bad up here, but it's going to be a day later. So yes, we're all running around like crazy. I have a full day tomorrow in terms of like generator testing and all the other prep work that comes with getting ready for a major snowstorm up here.
So you're looking at, as they say in the meteorology world, impacts on Saturday night into Sunday and into Monday? What do you think?
Mostly Sunday into Monday, from what I hear.
Sunday into Monday. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, we can talk about a little bit of prep too, because I'd like to know what you're doing. How you're getting ready for this. But I want to set up this interview in the following way before we take our early commercial break, and that is one thing I've always noticed about Aaron is he's got a lot of experience, and he draws opinions from that experience that he then applies going forward. And one thing I've noticed about Aaron in that is that he's really accurate. He's really accurate about the things that he notices and the solutions that he wants to apply. So whenever I've had a brief conversation with Aaron, and this is going to be the longest one today, is that he's really got a lot of wisdom and insight into broadcast systems and how to prep, how to keep things reliable. And we're going to talk to him about some of his what has led him through his career into where he is now. In fact, tell you what, Aaron, why don't we take just a minute, give us a little bit of an idea of the places and the kind of engineering that you've done, and then we'll build on that after our commercial break.
Oh, goodness. Well, part of the secret, I guess, is just that I've done a little bit of everything. I do not have a strictly speaking an engineering background. I have a degree from Boston University, but it's in psychology of all things. And I just was sort of technically minded. I like taking things apart and putting them together again when I was a kid. And I got involved with radio at college, and by sheer luck, ended up, being involved with a student radio station, which led to being involved with the professional NPR radio station, WBUR, which is, a huge NPR station, very big, very relevant. And that was where Michael LeClaire worked. So that was how he and I became friends, was that I ended up, my work study job, I sat in the bullpen next to the engineers and we just started chatting. So that's how long I've known him. It's pushing 30 years now. That's part of the reason we went into business with each other a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of everything, in terms of like raw, what you typically think of as raw engineering. But I've also, run a public radio station for 4 years. I did that in upstate New York at Finger Lakes Public Radio. I was the general manager. Absolutely terrifying thought, believe me. And it was just as terrifying for me as it was for everybody else. And I ran a college radio stations as well. I've done more IT based jobs. I did have a .com job with stock options, but we never went public, so I'm still poor. I've worked for, never directly for NPR, but I've done work for them and for PRSS. And by the same token, I've worked for, independent public radio shows. So I've worked both sides of the satellite, if you will. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm able to, do a lot of what I do, is just because I've, by chance, worked in so many different aspects of it, so that it forces you to keep your thinking very flexible and keep your mind very open. I mean, you mentioned that I'm a man of opinions. Yes, I very much am a man of opinions. Anyone who's ever heard me knows I have no shortage of opinions on almost anything. The secret, though, and this is something I encourage everybody to take to heart as much as you can, is that I may have a strong opinion, but I am constantly looking for new information to update that opinion. And I try very hard not to have too much ego attached to a particular opinion. If I have an opinion about something based on a given series of facts and information, and someone comes along and says, well, no, that's wrong because here's this new information that you didn't have. I'm like, well, that's great. Thank you. You've updated my opinions. And now I've got something more accurate that I can share with the rest of the world. I think that is, a fantastic skill to have. I'm lucky that it's just either through chance or through genetics I happen to have it, but I would certainly encourage everyone to cultivate it as much as they can.
Oh man, there's a lot of nuggets that you just put forth right there. So I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to the rest of our interview. We're going to be talking about things like lessons learned. Aaron's going to update us on things that he's found, what works, what he's found that works, and what engineers should know. Hey, we get to learn from Aaron's vast experience, including, oh my gosh, that psychology degree. I'm not sure if that's more useful for dealing with an ornery program director or with an ornery transmitter. Do you find the skills from your psychology degree helpful in both?
Yeah, actually, it's remarkable. The older I get, the more applicable my degree becomes, because you do learn more and more about why people tend to do things the way they do. You learn about various biases. You learn about how to manage expectations and manage how people tend to approach various things in life. And the older I get, the more and more I see that, oh yeah, those professors I was talking to 20, 30 years ago, they knew what they were talking about, because this is sure, technology may change, society may change, but humans never change. Humans are humans. Humans are the same now as they were 2,000 years ago. So yes, psychology may not get you a lot of dollars in terms of a salary, but it will help you a great deal in almost any career path you want to take.
All right, I'm gonna lay on the sofa and describe my engineering problems to Aaron Reed next time I have a big one. All right, hey, our show This Week in Radio Tech with Aaron Reed today is brought to you in part by our friends at AIR, AIIR.com, and one of my favorite people in the world, seriously, Ricky Lee is here to tell us about their streaming.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack, and I'm here with Ricky Lee, the CEO of AIR. Ricky, you guys make a fantastic automation system, but streaming is a really big deal. Tell me about streaming with AIR.
It really is. We've got a beautiful streaming platform with an incredible dashboard with fantastic analytics. And you can buy it for just $20 a month. All you can eat. No limits on bandwidth or bit rates. And you can also record shows as well. So if you like to deliver on-demand content for $20 a month, you can stream and deliver that on-demand content to an RSS feed that can feed your radio player, your mobile apps, or a podcast that people can download and enjoy.
Now, $20 a month, that must be for just some slow MP3, right?
No, MP3, AAC, and we also now support HLS, which is big in the industry right now.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How do I start to explore or find out more about streaming through Air?
You go to air.com, AIIR.com/streaming, and from there, with a credit card, you can sign up and get started.
Hey, thanks a lot to Ricky Lee and Air and Dave Brierley Jones and everybody else, including the fantastic support staff at air.com. Also the makers of Playout One automation, which we use at all of our stations. Love it. Thanks a lot, Air. All right, Aaron Reed is our guest. Aaron, let's just jump right into some information since you're full of it. I mean, full of information. We had a number of topics to talk about, and if you want to pick a different one, that's fine. But I'm curious about your experience with Rhode Island Public Radio, your engineering experience there, and what sorts of what were some of the challenges and what were some of the fixes or solutions that you came up with at Rhode Island Public Radio?
Well, first of all, shout out to the crew there, because they just announced yesterday that they're acquiring WVEI 1037, which is going to put them on a full Class B signal over Rhode Island for the first time. And that's something that Rhode Island Public Radio and its predecessor entity, WRNI, have been working towards since 1997. So congrats to them. In terms of what I did, I mean, I was there for about 14 years. I think I started in 2012. I'm still there as a contractor. I used to be the I guess you'd call it the director of engineering and IT and chief bottle washer and plumbing and electricity and vacuuming carpets and pretty much everything. Which is an interesting side note about all that is that in some ways it is easier when you're a one-man band because it's all you and it's all in your head. And you don't necessarily have to worry about setting things up so that somebody else can make use of them. If you're not there, because it doesn't matter, because it's all just you. You can just optimize things for however you want to do them. And there's a lot of value in that. There's also a lot of value in making it so that anybody can use it, so that you can go on vacation every once in a while. Trust me on that one. But yeah, the big thing I learned at Rhode Island Public Radio was actually something I learned prior to that when I was at Finger Lakes Public Radio, which is that it's so important to make it so that you can do stuff remotely. I learned very quickly at Finger Lakes Public Radio that my predecessor lived 2 blocks away from the studio. So whenever there was a problem, he just walked down the street and fixed it. And when I first moved out there, I was living an hour's drive away in good weather in upstate New York. Good weather is not a thing in the winter. So very quickly I figured out how to, this was in 2007. So relatively early in remote access concepts, and even earlier in terms of trying to do it over your phone. But it's so important to have that kind of access and to set it up in a way that is both functional but also secure as well. And these days, fortunately, it's never been easier to implement a VPN almost anywhere, and that's about all the security you'll really need. But yes, I had everything at every site. There's always a desktop, a small form factor desktop at every site that I can log into via VNC on my phone or on my laptop once I'm connected to the VPN. And that makes it so much easier to do diagnostic work, to do repairs, to make changes, what have you, once you're into that machine. But even then, I mean, I decided early on that I was going to keep a very rigid IP address schema and a very equally rigid username and password schema. I'll give you a great, for instance, the main site, the current main site for Rhode Island Public Radio. Well, I should say it's Ocean State Media these days, so I'll call them that, but it's the same company. The main site is WNPN in Tiverton. All the devices there are 192.168.30.0/24. So it's a .30 subnet. The aux site for that is .40 subnet. The repeater down in Narragansett, WNPE, is .50, .0/24. The repeater in Westerly's .60 and whatnot. And at each site, 30.20 is the remote control, 30.10 is the main transmitter, 30.14 is the backup transmitter. So on and so forth. 30.30 is the STL, the main STL, and then 30.32 is the HD2 STL. And I made sure that was implemented universally across all the systems. And most importantly, I put it all in a big Google sheet with a worksheet for each location with, usernames, passwords, IP addresses, login information, MAC addresses, serial numbers, model numbers, makes and models, all the information you could possibly need, because, sometimes it's a real pain in the neck to get out to these sites, but you need to look up something when you're talking to, like for Nautel, for example. Nautel always wants to know what your serial number is for your transmitter. So that way you've got it handy in a Google sheet, which, of course you can get one for free through Gmail, and you can also control the access to it to anyone you want, and do so fairly easily too, which is quite handy. And I'm not shilling Google or anything. There's just as many options in Office 365, or probably other ways to do it too. But it's more just have a system and stick with it, and try to make sure that your system is accommodating everything you're trying to do right now, but has a lot of room for growth, because you never know what you're going to add to it down the road.
Aaron, I think this idea of having consistency in IP addresses at different sites is brilliant. Now, maybe I think that's brilliant because that's what I do. I do it a little bit differently than you. The third octet indeed is the site. And that's worked out well for me. The fourth octet, I wish I could have that consistency. Hey, at every site, it's this piece or that piece of equipment, but my sites have enough different equipment to where I can't do that. I do have them. We just built 8 stations in Maui a little over a year ago, and I've got, just like you, a big Google spreadsheet of all this information. I probably could make it a bit more complete, but it's very similar to what you described. Now, the one thing that I've really done, though, is in my Chrome browser, I got bookmarks for everything. And so now this is an account that only the engineering computers are logged into. So I can do it. It doesn't do any good to do it from home, because I'm not on the same network. But when I am on the remote network, open Chrome browser, and I've got all my bookmarks for this satellite receiver, that satellite receiver, this STL, this Omnia MPX node, this processor, and this transmitter, that transmitter, this STL, that kind of thing. So that's pretty similar. But I love the way you've described doing this. So you got VPN, Google Sheet, which is convenient, free, and accessible I use that because I could be on an airplane and access the Google Sheet if I need to. It doesn't depend on being on a given device, right? It's in the cloud, and I've never not had access. I know there's a catastrophe that could happen and I wouldn't have access, but I've never not had access. So,
this is a true story. I was flying out to NAB one year, and I was literally standing. I had just gotten through security at Logan Airport, and I get a call from my boss, the COO, saying, "We just had to fire someone, and it was ugly. We're planning on just having you deal with all of this person's access to various devices after you landed, but we really kind of need to shut it all down now." And I was like, "No problem. I'll call you back in 5 minutes." And I was able to log into the VoIP phone system, because by then we had moved everything to VoIP. And it was and I also did the Google Workspace, and I shut off access to the website. And I did it all on my phone in a matter of about 5 minutes. And again, it was because I spent a lot of time early in the process making sure that I had all this access set up, and also mostly memorized it. Mostly because, actually, it wasn't so much memorizing it, even though I had memorized it by that point. It's because I had done it so often, and I had written down information about how to do it so often that, it all stuck in the noggin. So I could actually do it when I was standing there in Logan Airport on my iPhone. It's amazing what you can do these days with cloud-based infrastructure. Although, if you'll indulge me, that's segues very nicely into my the next bet, Noir, which is that's great when you have internet access. What happens when you don't?
Right.
Yeah,
Tell you what, we're going to leave the audience hanging because we need to take a commercial break, but we'll hit that right after we come back. That's a great cliffhanger, and we'll be back with Aaron talking about what happens when you don't have internet access. All right, and well, I have my own opinions on that, but we'll see what Aaron has to say first, and then I'll either agree or disagree. Our show This Week in Radio Tech, let me get my papers out here, is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. They have something that they've been calling the Bionic Studio. It really is amazing. They keep adding to the capabilities. They keep improving the software. This is software and functionality that will improve your radio station by giving your talent the information they need, the connectivity that they need, all at their fingertips. I want you to watch this ad. It's really good, and it's available. It's been available for several years now, but this is good stuff that'll make your station better. Let's check it out.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
I'll tell you, from a company that is making radio better literally all around the world, they're in England, and they get to try out their newest ideas on some big British broadcasters. But then the ideas spread all around the world. Thanks a lot to Broadcast Bionics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Bionic.co.uk. Bionics.co.uk. Check them out. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack of This Week in Radio Tech, our episode number 784. And our guest today is Aaron Reed from the Boston, Rhode Island area. He does engineering up in the northeast part of the U.S., getting ready for a big snowstorm, probably hitting his place around on Sunday. So we'll see about that. Okay, Aaron, you left us with a cliffhanger. You want to continue?
I did. Yes. What happens when the internet doesn't work? And that the watchword is redundancy. And I am a big fan of relying as little as possible on what I call third-party telco. Basically, like, a cable modem from Comcast or Spectrum or Cox Communications or any of the big ISP providers, or Verizon Fios, which actually Fios isn't too bad in the reliability department. God help you, ISDN, if you're still using such a thing for data, or DSL. I have a client whose only option is DSL. It's the only thing available in his region. I feel for the guy, and he's been having problems with it lately too. But even then, even enterprise grade fiber. I mean, one of the things I have learned, and this is actually probably a good takeaway for people to think about, is that when you talk to folks at like major universities or major broadcast groups, guys high level in iHeart, K-Love, Town Square, all the big, Cumulus, all the big Odyssey entities, they're buying enough product that they can then throwing enough money around to these telco companies that they can afford to demand not just better service level agreements, but that when there is a problem, the telco will actually listen to them. When you're dropping, 20 grand a month or 50 grand a month on fiber connections, yes, the telco company is going to pay more attention than if you're just dropping, $120 a month for a cable modem package. But even then you have to be really careful and study that contract very closely to see exactly what they're promising you for your money. I mean, it's great that you can call someone who supposedly is a top tier tech and, can move heaven and earth to fix a problem. But when the backhoe comes along and you get backhoe fade and it takes out that fiber, you're hosed along with 1,000 other customers. It doesn't matter that you're paying, 50 grand a month for it. You're going to have downtime for hours, if not days, just like everybody else, because the fiber got cut. It's going to take a lot of time to get it repaired. Therefore, I'm not real big on third-party telco, or I'm not real big on relying on it, but I'm also not big on spending a ton of money on a supposedly uber reliable connection. I think it's usually a better bet to invest in multiple connections running simultaneously or in some sort of fallback position that probably are costing less. I mean, you can get an awful lot of reliability by having a relatively consumer or maybe a SOHO level business grade cable modem combined with, say, Verizon Fios, or perhaps combined with a 4G, 5G cell phone internet solution, or even perhaps Starlink, the Starlink or coming soon Project Kuiper from Amazon. The satellite services, they have their own issues, but the nice thing about them is that you want to talk about true redundancy. It's hard to get more redundant than shooting it up to a satellite in Earth orbit and then coming back down. You certainly don't have to worry about the same storm taking out telephone poles that the same cable and the same Fios line might be running on. And you can get an awful lot of reliability by spreading across 2 or even 3 if you want to toss in a 4G solution too. Connections. Yes, your costs go up a little bit, but I mean, you're getting nearly as much reliability as you might pay for a multi-$1,000 a month enterprise fiber solution. I think you're better off doing that, even though it is somewhat more hassle to manage 3 different ISPs.
You might remember it. I think it's been probably 10 years or 12 years ago. The folks at APT Worldcast, with their office in Florida and their office up in Ireland or somewhere, and they brought two connections on each end, and I think they tried to make sure they were actually taking different routes across the Atlantic Ocean, and their reliability just was incredible when you combine the both together, because they never failed. Packets never failed at the same time on both of them. Obviously, they didn't share any or much infrastructure. And so it seems like, yes, since we're so reliant on internet, and I think now all of my stations except one have fiber internet, whether they're in Hawaii or even Mississippi or where else? American Samoa, we don't have fiber. It comes in via satellite, via the OB3. I forget what it's called. It's those medium Earth orbit satellites that the antennas have to track, and it's for ships at sea and for other people in the kind of between the two tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Anyway, what we've just gotten fantastic results from fiber. Realized fiber could be cut, and so for backup, I'm pushing that we use Starlink, and I've got a Starlink here at the house that I'm testing for deployment to one of our transmitter sites that that can't get fiber. And okay, so what are the downsides of using Starlink? Well, they do software updates, typically in the middle of the night, but your modem may be off for 30 seconds to a couple minutes in the middle of the night. Other than that, it's only very brief outages, typically 1 or 2 seconds at the most. So yeah, Aaron, would you agree that get 2 different technologies for your internet delivery and you're likely to have very reliable service?
Oh yeah, no, the WorldCast idea was brilliant. I call it bit slicing. I'm sure other people have other names for it, but it's been copied by almost everybody now because it works. Sure. Like you said, I mean, whenever it has basically completely eliminated the downtime associated with normal packet loss or other loss of service that is just a part of any ISP. There's always going to be a couple packets lost here and there. And that sort of problem is now just completely solved. And it goes a long way towards solving the problem of any one ISP's vulnerability to a longer term outage. Like, cable modems, for example, require what I call power to the poles. If you have a power outage in your region, it doesn't matter if you have a generator on site. The cable modem almost certainly won't work because there has to be power to the amplifiers on the telephone poles where the cable is running.
Oh, you're so
whereas
right. Yeah.
And believe me, I've gotten bitten by that before. Whereas Verizon, by the way, for its worth, doesn't have that problem. As long as the central office has power, and as long as your demarcation point has power, your transmitter site has power, Fios will work because it doesn't generally require powered amplifiers in between. Starlink is a great way to do it. The biggest problem with Starlink is that everything is double natted and they won't give you a static IP address. So you can't, dynamic DNS services don't work with it either. I understand that they're probably going to start offering static IPs at some point in the future. As far as I know, they haven't done it yet. But you could presumably use something like a Comrex's traversal server, or I think Barix's reflector service. There's a couple others out there where it's a third party clouds connection that you're making from your transmitter site to there, and your studio is going from to the cloud, and then the cloud is linking the two together so that you don't need a static IP address at both ends in order for them to make a connection. I think that will work over satellite.
It certainly will. And you make a good point and a good distinction that I think many broadcast engineers know, not everybody knows. And if you're doing any kind of point-to-point communication where you need to push something to the far end, and so therefore you need a static IP address to push to, and you probably need a port forward to forward into the device that you're hitting. In that case, yes, you can't do the carrier NAT, which gives you a 10 dot address on your device, and you don't know the IP address in the real world, or it changes. But for example, at our stations, we sometimes we have to get set up on a service at one of our stations that uses carrier NAT, and so we can't poke a hole through and access something. And this frustrates my business partner, Larry Fuss, to no extent that he can't get directly into the EAS box to get the report out of it. It's highly passworded and all that, but he can't go direct. I said, Larry, just use your remote access to the PC that's right there next to the EAS box, and you can get what you need, because those remote access programs typically have a rendezvous server. If there's a rendezvous server involved, whether it's a SIP phone service or a codec service like a TeleZip One or Comrex or the Barix reflector service, then you don't have to do a port forward. You don't have to have a static IP address, because those guys go out and meet in the middle somewhere externally. And that's what routers do. They let a signal go out and they let a signal come back in as long as it's going to the same place. Well, anyway, and typically only from the device that the packets went out to, not from some other hacker device. So it's important to know this difference. And yes, there is some broadcast gear that won't work over Starlink or over a 5G hotspot. But if you're using any method that uses a rendezvous server, and I know that's more complexity, but in the end, it as long as that complexity works, it's simple and it works. Have I described that to some degree correctly, you think, Aaron?
I haven't heard the term rendezvous server before, but I love it. I'm totally going to steal that because it's a great way of describing it. No, you're absolutely right. But you've also, you have touched on the one weakness of it, which is that it's another third-party telco system that you're relying on that can fail on you. I mean, look at AWS. Our mutual acquaintance, Alex Hartman, loves to talk about how he's built, entire radio clusters within AWS and hosted them in the cloud. And it all works brilliantly on virtual machines. And I'm like, yeah, it's really cool. But guess what? AWS went down for like a day. Not that long ago, too. Wasn't it just a couple months ago where there was that massive AWS outage? I mean, these things do fail. And I'll give you another great example. I do a lot of work with WMVY, which is out on Martha's Vineyard. The vineyard is, it's an island. And they have all kinds of connectivity problems. The whole island does. It's not just the radio station. And they have microwave links back to the mainland, and they have undersea fiber. But it breaks sometimes. And sometimes during the summer, the microwave links just completely die because you get beam warping over the ocean water as it warms up.
Yeah.
It's the same. Anyone who's ever tried to do a 950 megahertz STL over water knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's the same concept. Yeah. And they have a not inexpensive enterprise grade fiber connection from Comcast, who unfortunately at the moment is the only ISP on the island. Although apparently there are secret talks to change that, which I can't talk about, but that's pretty cool if it happens.
Yeah.
Including we're hoping a nonprofit fiber operator, which would be a big change to how things work out there. But yeah, if, we have these discussions all the time with them and between Michael and myself about, all right, the cloud is great, but relying on the cloud out there is a dicey proposition. The internet connection off the island can and does go down and at random times. And sometimes it, unless you're talking like a satellite or you're talking your own personal beam path, which I happen to know another station out there does do their own 6 gigahertz from Woods Hole, partly for this reason. Yeah, I mean, so what if you paid for, Verizon DSL and Comcast? They're both going over the same undersea fiber, your host. If that goes down.
Yeah.
Same thing with all the phones. All the cell phones out there all go over the same links that all the internet goes over too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, you have to spend, I mean, it's mostly through hard-won experience, but if you get used to how all these systems work and how the technology works, you start understanding really fast how much and how little redundancy there can be, depending on what you're ordering and who you're ordering it from.
Right. Yeah. This is one reason we talk about these technologies and connectivity systems so much, is because it does take an understanding of their strengths and vulnerabilities to decide upon the best mix of connectivity solutions for your particular stations. So like at some of our stations in Mississippi, our connectivity is an IP radio link. And typically it's an unlicensed one because it's rural. It's not going to get interfered with typically. Those are so cheap these days that in some cases we'll put up 2 of them, different cat 6s up the tower and different frequencies, maybe even different frequency bands, but we'll have 2 of them. So if one dies, which, lightning hits the tower or something, a squirrel bites through the cat 6 cable, who knows what, a tower climber steps on scrapes a piece of cable, that happened, and we started getting water in the cat 6 cable. Unhooked it at the bottom to the lightning protector, and water just comes pouring out the RJ connector. How does that happen? I thought I gripped that thing really good.
It's a horrible feeling.
Found your problem here, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you, my friend. Oh, I've seen it. I was just at a site today, literally not 2 hours ago, where there was another tenant on the tower, and it looks like they either didn't secure their feed line properly, but it looks like it's something. I don't know exactly what cable it is because the break was too high up, but it looks like approximately half-inch heliax, and it looks like it literally ripped apart at the point where the grounding strap was attached.
Oh yeah,
and it's it's swinging from some other mount point. Either it wasn't mounted properly or it just ripped out all the other mount points. It's right now swinging about 75 feet off the ground and just banging around all over the place. And honestly, if I would have climbed up there and tried to secure it, if it weren't for the fact that it's not my circus, not my monkeys, which I know sounds rude, but when you've got to deal with your own insurance, believe me, you start paying attention to that little voice in your head on that one.
Yeah.
But also it didn't look like it was going to smack into anything that belonged to my client. So I'm like, well, I've reported it. I've told the guy who's supposed to be the liaison with American Tower, call in and let him know. But but that also speaks to, like you said, redundancy in terms of radios. I mean, these $100 Ubiquity radios are great. Buy 2 of them, put them both up, because guess what? They only last about 5 years. I mean, I've bought probably 24 Ubiquity light beam radios right now. The ones like the little dish with the feed horn in the middle. They're about this big, maybe 18 inches. They're great. They're like $70 each, and they will completely implode after about 5 years of, well, at least in New England weather. The plastic just gets so brittle that it eventually shatters because it's getting exposed to, UV sunlight. In those 5 years, it'll work great. But yes, it's, you're getting what you pay for. I mean, if you want something that's going to go up there and last for 20 years, okay, maybe now you got to drop $1,000 on an air fiber, which, that's a perfectly respectable way to go too. And the nice thing about doing these point-to-point links with Ubiquity, or with, well, if you want to pay for Cambium, I suppose you can. I have more experience with SAF Technica. They're a Latvian company, I believe, and they have excellent technical support, which makes up for a rather overly complicated user interface, in my opinion. But their tech support's really good.
Those Latvians are good at that, like on MikroTik routers. Those have a complicated user interface as well, at least for me.
You've touched on it perfectly. And I have in a licensed 11 gigahertz with them. And it was not exactly, it was cheaper than the Cambium, but it wasn't cheap. I think it was about $12,000 by the time it was all said and done to get the licensing, deal with the legal stuff, pay the tower climbers, buy the hardware, get it installed, get it aimed, and all that. And it cost some money, but it's been up there for, how long? Since late 2018 now. And the only hiccup we've ever had was actually 2 weeks ago, and we discovered that there's a construction crane literally in the path that we'd never noticed before. And somehow it's been there for over a year, and it never caused any problems. And it just happened to knock out the link for about 3 hours on a Friday night. We still don't know exactly why. But the thing's been bulletproof. And I'll tell you, it's generally stays up when the Cox cable at the tower site goes down due to like a power outage or what have you. But by the same token, Cox cable stays up during a really heavy rainstorm, which if you've ever worked with 11 gigahertz, since the wavelength of an 11 gigahertz signal is approximately the same size as a water droplet in the air. It's really, really good at absorbing that energy. And that's why 11 gigahertz is so susceptible to what we call rain fade. I mean, I've got 40 dB. That's a lot of dB of fade margin on that link. And during a
that is a lot of dB.
But during a really heavy rainstorm, it's not enough. I've had to go down for a few minutes at a time during really heavy rainstorms, but I've also had it stay up when the cable modem went down for a day and a half because we had a snowstorm come through and the power was out in that area in Tiverton, Rhode Island is pretty rural. And that neck of the woods had lost power. The generator kept us going, but the cable modem was completely gone for a day and a half.
It's worth. We're getting ready to take our next break. It's worth mentioning that one of the solutions to get internet is a service like Max Connect, where you do get a fixed IP address over 4G, and either now or pretty soon they'll be offering 5G connectivity modems as well. So you get a fixed IP address, and that means that you can do port forwarding and that kind of stuff. In my experience, Max Connect is better for occasional use or low data use because it's not unlimited data. You do have to pay for the data that you use, but it's super duper reliable. Every time I've tried Max Connect, it's worked fabulously. And anyway, they've got some more products coming out. Hey, Aaron, we got to take a quick break. Think about what you want to talk about when we come back. There was the whole, there's a lot of different topics we can talk about. I got to tell you about. I'm not gonna sell you a phone. This is a Yealink phone. Okay, this is a T40 something or other U. And the thing about this Yealink phone is it's a regular VoIP phone. You can program it, use it for VoIP, but it's got this USB port on the back of it here. Now, Yealink built this so that you could put a Wi-Fi module on there, which I think the phone comes with that. And so you don't have to have it wired to your corporate network. You could have it on your corporate Wi-Fi. Okay, that's well and good. But you know what else that connection does? It offers audio into the phone and audio out of the phone. And it's not on a little silly analog 3.5 millimeter connector. No, it's digital. It's on a USB-A connector. Well, guess what you can do? This is magical. Now watch this. This is the first time we've shown this. You see this stand right here? You can take this off like that. Okay, there's the factory stand. And look, from Angry Audio, you can buy another stand. And look what's attached to the stand permanently. A USB to audio adapter. It's the VoIP phone gizmo. So, and the cable's built right on there. So we're going to slap this on. Well, this worked in the demo. Here we go. There we go. Now it's on the phone. It's the same size, exactly the same thing as we had before. And we're going to take the USB-A connector from the VoIP audio gizmo and plug it in. And of course, I got it wrong because it's USB. There we go. Okay. So there's the USB and the VoIP audio phone gizmo is powered by the phone. No problem there. It's Angry Audio's typical really high quality audio. And then what you get on Studio Hub connectors, you get balanced audio in and balanced audio out. You probably want to feed that with a mix minus feed from your console. And then the audio comes out and gives you the caller audio. And you just select your line that you want to put on the air and you get great caller audio out of it. Just terrific. This is an awesome, awesome idea. You talk about an inexpensive way to put a phone system on the air. Use your business phone system, or set up a phone with your VoIP on your call in, your request lines, your talk lines, and put it on the air that way. It is so cool. It's available now from Angry Audio. Go to angryaudio.com and check it out. Oh, there we go. Got a live one on the line? Well, let's get it on the air. There's the page about the VoIP phone gizmo. The VoIP phone gizmo from Angry Audio. All right. Thanks a lot, Angry Audio, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, our show is also brought to you by Max Connect. In the future, we'll be talking about their 5G offerings that are coming up. But right now, we're going to talk about something called the RMT 416. This is brilliant. This is a super high quality and super convenient multi-tuner, and you can buy whatever size you need, well, in blocks of 4. So you can buy this rack that is populated with anywhere from 1 to 4 tuner cards. It's a single rack unit that's got the power supply and the network connection. And there are 4 slots to house user option tuner cards. And each tuner card has 4 tuners so you can have up to 16 tuners in one of these things. 4 tuner cards, 16 tuners, or you can have 1 tuner card, 4 tuners, or anywhere in between. They come in different varieties of tuner cards, AM, FM, and weather band, or AM, FM, and AM, HD, FM. There's separate antennas for AM and for FM weather band. And it's really cool what you can do with this thing. The user interface is also really cool. It gives you a very nice visual on what's coming in and how loud it is, the volumes and so forth. You can adjust the volumes on them. And it has an IceCast server that's built in, so you can listen to these with no problem over your internet connection. The Max Connect RMT 416. Look for more news from Max Connect. It's going to be pretty exciting about the cards that go in there. They're from Audio Science, these tuner cards. So they're really well designed. Thanks a lot, Max Connect, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. We appreciate you very, very much. All right, Aaron Reed is our guest. And Aaron, let's see, what would you like to chat about next? What's on the hit parade?
Well, they didn't sponsor me directly, but I would love to point out something about Max Connect, because I know Josh personally as well. I have hired him to do work for me, and he's done excellent work. Really? And he comes up with really cool. Yes, he helped me rebuild WPVD, which is an AM station here in Providence. It's the thing about Max Connect, because I want to point this out because it's one of the things I think that tends to confuse people who aren't as familiar with the service. And it's really, really powerful what it is. Because most people look at a Max Connect 4G or 5G internet device. I think, well, what's the big deal? It's a cradle point. Everyone's got cradle points. And it's technologically, it is just a cradle point. It's a 4G internet receiver with a little router built in and whatnot, and it works fine. What Josh has done with Max Connect is he's negotiated a higher quality of service connection for his devices. And that's the unique aspect of what Max Connect brings to the table. So, for example, if you are trying to use an internet, a Wi-Fi connection, let's say, or just a regular 4G cradle point at a major sports arena during a football game or a basketball game or what have you, and your device is now competing with, say, 20,000 odd fans and all of their smartphones all trying to connect to the local cell infrastructure, and it gets swamped. It can't keep up. Everyone only gets a tiny little bit of bandwidth, and usually it drops out. What little it gives you is not very stable. However, there are devices for like first responders that when this device queries a local cell facility, the cell facility knows, hey, this is a high tier device. I'm going to boot off everybody else I need to in order to make sure that this high tier device gets the service it's requesting. Now, Max Connect isn't quite as high as a first responder, and I don't think it should be, and I don't think Josh thinks it should be, but it's right below it, I think. It's definitely higher than your average person's iPhone. And so when you go into these challenging network environments where you need your 4G to work, period, like you said, especially a temporary sort of thing where it's like a sports event or a live event, maybe an election rally or something like that, anything where there's a ton of people in that, all concentrated in a single geographic area where you have to be, those Max Connects will save your life because they just work. I've brought them out to Vegas, which is notorious for having problems with lousy cell phone internet. When NAB is in town, there's 120 odd thousand people all visiting the city at once. And my Max Connect gets through with perfect, great connection when everyone else's cell phone is slowed to a crawl. And yes, there is the downside that they cost a little bit more, and there's no such thing as unlimited bandwidth like this. You do have to pay for a certain amount of monthly allocated bandwidth. I used to use one as for an STL. It was one half of a dual path STL. And we had, I think we were paying like $350 or $400 a month, something like that. And it was for 30 gigabytes, which was enough to comfortably accommodate a 24/7, 64 kilobit per second stream, which, this was a news talk station. So that was good enough for what we were trying to do. I don't remember ever having any STL related dropouts on that link. There was a cable modem from Comcast and there was the Max Connect, and between the two of them, they just worked. So yes, if you're wondering why Max Connect costs a little more, it's because you're getting this incredibly valuable service in certain situations. If all you need is just regular 4G and it's never going to be that swamped, it's going to be in a fairly, quiet area. Max Connect's nice. Don't get me wrong. You get a static IP, you get all the advantages of a static IP, you get the service from the company, which is excellent. Those guys really know their stuff. But it may be overkill for what you're trying to do. But if you're trying to do, live events, sports events, or really high reliability STL stuff, you can't beat it. It's a great service and I highly recommend it.
one more aspect of the static IP is what the IP address is. That means that if you're providing connectivity to transmitter sites like for remote controls, let's say you've got a Burke, you can whitelist that IP address. And because you may have to have an open port wherever your central location is, where your main Burke unit is. Well, you can whitelist from in your router what's allowed in, and that adds security. Nobody can spoof that. So yeah, it's good for security too. Hey, Aaron, I want to bring up we've only got a 2 or 3 minutes now. One more commercial, and then a tip of the week. But I want to ask you a question I think you're very good at answering, and this has to do with listener trust in a radio brand, in a radio station, and what can an engineer do, or what can a station do by taking shortcuts that can reduce listener trust, and what can an engineer do to make sure to be part of the station's public facing, such that trust is always there. Being able to trust a broadcaster, technically, that, hey, it's on the air, it sounds good, it's available where I think it ought to be available, or where it was yesterday. And can contrast that with the programming trust. If it's a news talk station, someplace where you are inclined to trust the program that goes on there. I'm talking about, what can an engineer do regarding trust of a broadcast station?
Well, this is where the psych degree comes into play, because mostly what you're doing in a situation like that is you are guiding the rest of the staff in techniques and down pathways that will lead to higher trust, as you describe. As I've said many times here, there, and elsewhere, I am not at all a fan of AI. I think it's absolute garbage. There are certain aspects of it that are useful, but I also think any tool has certain applications that can be useful. It doesn't mean that it's not being widely used and abused elsewhere. Between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So the building credibility within your staff, first of all, and having reliable knowledge to explain why using AI is a antitrust, although that obviously that phrase has different connotations, but it's the opposite. It's anathema to trust, to listener trust. It's not engendering trust, it's wasting it, it's spending it on something that gives you very little benefit in return, because there's so many. AI requires so much spot checking and confirmation. You're not really saving much in the way of man hours or salaries, if you will. There are ways, though, where you can deploy it useful. I think of there was a story in Current, the public radio trade magazine, not long ago, about how they were using AI bots to sift through an enormous amount of public records in the state of California. And apparently this was really useful about compiling information about police shootings, which there's very little. There's a ton of data out there, but it's not in any organized way that's easy for people to understand and consume and track. And they were using this tool in order to help their reporters, present this data in a meaningful way to their audience. Okay, great. That's an example of AI engendering trust. You're presenting information that is useful to the public, about, maybe this police department has a lot of shootings. Maybe they're justified, maybe they're not. But why is it having shootings? Maybe there's a good reason for it. Maybe there's a reason why a station isn't having a lot of shootings, and it turns out it's because they're not reporting them. And you can track patterns more easily with an AI ecosystem, potentially. I think of the great part in Spotlight, if you've seen the movie, where they realize that they can use this newfangled thing called a spreadsheet to track all the priest abuses and how they've been transferred to parish. And this was all happening in the late 90s, and no one knew what a spreadsheet was back then. And they put all this data together, and suddenly it became really clear. That's a great way of using technology to engender trust. And like you said, reliability, taking it to the other step, just reliability is a big thing. Making sure the audio is there, making sure the audio sounds good, making sure that, you teach your staff why having good quality audio clips, why using your mic properly, all this stuff does matter in the end. I mean, yes, good content trumps everything, but it makes it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable for the listener when it doesn't sound like a terrible quality MP3. Instead, it sounds like you're actually listening to the guy in the room. There's all sorts of ways you can do it, but it's mostly about support. Think of it in that way. Don't think of it so much as what you are trying to do directly. It's more about helping other people to do their jobs better.
Great words, great advice from Aaron Reed. And Aaron, we've got a tip of the week coming up. And would you like to make your tip of the week about Barix and best practices, or would you like to talk about something else for your tip?
Oh, well, sure, because it's a quick one, it's an easy one, and by God, everyone ought to be doing it. That is change the damn default password. Just change the password.
That's the gist of it. But let's after the commercial break, we'll get you to formally give us some instruction on what to make sure we're doing, and maybe there's other modes of using a Barix box that might make it more secure too. Hey, it's This Week in Radio Tech. Kirk Harnack here, along with Aaron Reed. I'm having a good time. We got one more quick segment after this. Our show brought to you in part by Broadcasters General Store, and they can put into your hot little hands any of the products from Broadcast Tools. I've been dealing with Broadcast Tools products for years. I mean, probably 30 years, maybe more. And one of them that I found very useful lately, we've got several clusters of stations. And I know there's different ways to insert EAS tests and announcements and emergency messages on your station. But I really love this way. It is the MSRP3. It's a 3-station analog stereo EAS relay panel. Boy, that's a lot of adjectives there before the word panel, but this thing works great. And for example, on Maui, where we have 8 stations, we bought 3 of these, and all 3 of them fit right across a single rack unit just fine. And we wired it up so that one signal, one contact closure from a Sage NDEC fires all 3 of them off at the same time and switches their audio, and then the Sage NDEC audio goes into this 3-station analog stereo EAS relay panel. I didn't have to build anything. I just had to wire them up. And because these have Studio Hub style audio connectors on the back, that made hooking up the audio really fast and easy. And then hooking up the other couple of connections didn't take long either. So this was just the easiest solution, made the best use of my time, and got EAS on our 8 stations. I had this hooked up within 45 minutes. It was just easy peasy to do. We come out at our station. We come out of some Axia X nodes with our selected, with our program, go loop through this and come right back into the same Axia X nodes. And the quality is just perfect. Short audio runs. Of course, it's balanced, and the X nodes have great A to D and D to A converters. So it all works out great. I should describe it just a bit more. It's a 3-station analog stereo EAS relay switcher, and it follows in the footsteps of Broadcast Tools' original multi-station relay panel for the Sage NDEC, designed way back in the mid-90s. Well, the MSRP3 provides additional alert audio distribution and transparent audio interrupt switching for the NDEC, but also for the DAS deck and other EAS encoders. It doesn't have to be an NDEC. Balanced stereo switched audio is what you get through it, so the audio stays nice and clean. You can control it not only with the contact closure from the NDEC, but also via RS-232 serial or an optional Ethernet port. And like I said, the contact closure inputs. So a lot of features here. You can read up about it on the Broadcast Tools website, and you can get it from Broadcasters General Store. Their website is bgs.cc. Love these folks, and they will they got sharp pencils, and they know when the stuff's going to arrive. Just really, really good folks. So if you need one of these, and you may, especially if you're moving stations around and consolidating things, or maybe your old solution is just tired and worn out, well, check out this Broadcast Tools MSRP3 from Broadcasters General Store at bgs.cc. All right, Aaron. All right. You've got experience with Barix boxes, several of which over the years, a couple of big incidents in the last few years, one of them recently, been taken over by nefarious individuals who have nothing better to do. How do we prevent that?
Well, I mean, like I said, the simplest answer is just change the default password. I mean, that's easy, and it will go a long way to preventing this problem. But the thing about Barix is that it is a useful tool. The problem is that because it's so inexpensive, it tends to be deployed by people who either aren't knowledgeable enough or don't have the funding to deploy what I would consider necessary ecosystems around that Barix box in order for it to function properly. Like, Comrex, for example, those boxes are damn near unhackable because they're basically a stripped down Linux core inside. Mm-hmm. So you can put them on the public internet, and as long as you change the default password, you don't even have to worry about a firewall. They'll just work. I've had Barix boxes on public static IPs literally for 10 years, and they've never once even hiccuped because of it. Especially once Comrex enabled the whole whitelisting, blacklisting lists in their control GUI. But Barix doesn't have a lot of that, and arguably the number one thing that Barix really needs around it is a VPN. I don't think it's ever really safe to put these things on anything approaching the public internet, and that includes port forwarding. I would try and avoid port forwarding wherever possible. You want to set up a site-to-site VPN and then connect over that so that you're either pushing or pulling, either way, from an internal IP address. It's never looking to the outside world, and therefore it's never seeing the outside world. And the nice thing is that while it does require some knowledge in order to do it really inexpensively, you can get a sub $100 TP-Link router, and that supports perfectly robust VPNs. I have several of them at several transmitter sites. They work just fine. They're a little tricky to set up because they've got their own little idiosyncratic TP-Link way of doing things, same as MikroTik, same as Fortinet, same as all of them do. God help you, a Cisco router or a Linksys or whatever. Well, I guess Linksys is part of Cisco these days, but whatever. Definitely try and set up a VPN one way or another around that, because you'll find it also gives a lot of other benefits as well, but it will really work wonders at keeping that Barix box safe, secure, and operating happily as time goes on.
I see stations, and just as you alluded to, Barix is more hackable because it doesn't have some of the security features that others do. And for example, one example is the Omnia MPX decoder node. At the moment, it doesn't work through a rendezvous server. You've got to push a signal to it through a static IP, through an open port. But when you first turn on an Omnia MPX node, you are required to change the password. You can't go any farther until you change. And their requirement for complexity is a little bit impressive. And that may be inconvenient, but guess what? It's going to sit there. Well, if it's on the public internet. Now we also have ours typically on a private IP radio link, so that the public internet never can see them. But many of them are installed on public internet, and they kind of have to be if that's your situation. Although a VPN would certainly do that. I guess the point I was wanting to get at is, if you're going to spend a few $100s or a few $1,000s, whatever it may be, on whatever your IP point-to-point solution is, spend a little bit of money on a local IT expert to make your VPN for you if you don't know how. See, and it's very much worth that to make that happen. So, Aaron, I got to thank you for being with us. It's time for us to go. In fact, we got to go fast because our producer turns into a pumpkin at 1:15. Thank you for being with us, Aaron. It's been delightful to have you on and to share your knowledge.
You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
I'd love to get sometime another session with you. You thought about helping people understand exactly how to set up a VPN with examples, and that might be a really good learning experience for us at some time in the future. So sometime, can we have you back to give us a lesson?
Certainly. I'd be delighted to.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Aaron. And we will see you later. Thanks to Suncast, our producer, for This Week in Radio Tech. And we got to go right now. Take care, and we'll see you next week.